Assalamu alaikum and welcome everyone to our digital press conference on the Muslims in America policy poll. We're going to just go ahead and get started. So to introduce us, the Muslims in America policy poll was created and distributed by America Indivisible, Council on American-Islamic Relations, Emgage Action, Jetpac, Muslim Public Affairs Council, MPower Change, and the Polygon Education Fund. This was a consolidation of efforts across our organizations to educate and mobilize our Muslim constituencies for the 2020 elections. We surveyed Muslims in America around the issues and policies that most concern them in order for our national Muslim civic engagement organizations to get a better picture of the issues that are impacting our communities and to also inform candidates in federal, state, and local elections about the community's policy priorities. Our method was simple and a reflection of online organizing. We collectively drafted a simple survey with two main questions. One, what issues do you care about? And two, what policy areas do you want to see addressed? 1,500 respondents reflected a snapshot of the diverse Muslim communities that we polled. Those comprised of Black and African American folks, Arab and Middle Eastern communities, South Asians, and white community members from over 45 states. The poll was conducted online over the course of 6 months, from January to June 2020, just ahead of these upcoming November elections. Three main issues that we want to highlight were that we found that civil rights, healthcare, and education were the top three issues for respondents. We also found that the Muslim ban, international humanitarian crises, and religious discrimination were the three things that Muslims wanted to see changed. There's also a few things that we think are important to demystify, and I'm joined by Mohammed Missouri from Jetpac to talk a little bit about that. Mohammed?
Thank you, Kifa. So some of our observations in this poll, I think the most important one is that it shows that although the media and political parties and different advocacy groups have traditionally treated our community as a monolith as single issue voters on foreign policy, I think this survey shows very clearly that that foreign policy isn't the top issue for any generation or any age group really of the people we surveyed. So we found that civil rights and healthcare are the two top issues for most people. And then you've got a statistical tie on education, climate change, immigration behind that. And then right under that, below that is foreign policy. So I think what it really shows is that Muslims are, care about a wide range of issues. And then if you look at the demographic breakdown too, you'll see that Muslims represent a microcosm of the American identity. So we were seeing like a growing Latinx populations within the Muslim community, a significant African American population, people with immigrant roots, and a wide range of socioeconomic status. And then we're seeing with other groups as well, other communities, that there is a generational gap on issues. We're seeing some, our survey shows that healthcare and civil rights is pretty much a top issue for people across generations. But if you go and look at economic issues, you'll see that there's under the age of 35, you'll see people really focusing on student loan debt being a top issue. And then you're seeing also the ages between the 18 and 34, a greater emphasis on reproductive rights, LGBTQ plus issues, DACA, and the Green New Deal. And I think that what the last takeaway from that is that, which the survey also kind of points to, because we got so many respondents, right, is that the Muslim community is more engaged in the political scene than ever, and than we've ever been before, and it continues to grow. We're seeing a larger number, new groups popping up all the time, being launched all over the country that are, around issues, but also around actually getting out the vote. So, it's something to consider going forward for the media, for people who are interested in engaging with our community, that they can't treat us as a single issue block.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mohammed. And We also have Aisha Ahmed from Emgage Action, who's going to talk a little bit about the ways that Muslims can play a pivotal role in these upcoming elections.
Hey, thanks so much, Kifa. I'm so excited to be joined virtually all with you guys today. Publishing these results has been truly exciting because the story behind these results is action-packed. We've got good guys, we've got bad guys, we've got plenty of plot twists, but I definitely have faith that the ending is going to be a good one. So I'll be taking a minute or two to highlight some perspectives from a numbers angle. The reports highlighted in the state survey analysis included 6 states: Florida, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Texas, and Virginia. I hope I got my math right there. We chose to do a deep dive in these battleground states because they hold some key pivot counties for the Muslim American community. All states which we lost, by the way, in the last presidential cycle, except for Virginia. So let me tell you why pivot counties are particularly important. We're not a large voting bloc, but we're definitely a strategic voting bloc. And when we put our forces behind key pivot counties, we can win in the policy changes that we want to see. Take Kenosha County, for example, that's been in the headlines this week, unfortunately. Kenosha County, Wisconsin is a pivot county. Now, Wisconsin overall has at least 70,000 potential Muslim voters. And in the 2016 election cycle, Wisconsin was determined by 22,748 votes. It's also worth noting that in the last presidential cycle, there was a significant increase in third-party voters. So there's a lot of room for persuasion in that arena. We went from 33,000 third-party voters to 188,000 plus third-party voters from 2012 to 2016. That's huge. Not to mention that 2016 was the lowest turnout in Wisconsin since 1996. So lots of interesting trends to look at. But when you magnify the electoral lens on Kenosha County alone, in 2016, Kenosha County was lost by Dems by only 238 votes. One good phone bank or two to really have the conversation and build our voting bloc to make sure that folks are prepared and ready to vote and have all the tools and resources necessary to kind of combat the voter suppression that we see going on these days. One good phone bank or two, and we could flip Kenosha, which really for the past century has been Democratic anyway. But that would allow us, when we flip a county, to change out a few key elected officials in the civil rights realm, because civil rights across the board in all of these battleground states was identified as a top priority issue for us. We could switch out positions like the mayor, who appoints the chief of police. We could switch out the governor, who's responsible for ensuring public safety and security and managing those state agencies that implement criminal justice policy. The sheriff, which is also typically an elected position, who oversees the county, enforces the law. And in Kenosha, the district attorney is also an elected position. And that position and office will determine whether or not to bring charges against, especially in the case of Jacob Black, against the officers there. So that kind of a micro targeting effort, it can really prove some smaller policy wins for us, which ultimately bring us some bigger gains in the long run. So the reason why, and to close it up, where we bring up numbers is because when we improve our turnout, we improve our voter propensity, and we improve the civic muscle to build the change that we want to see. We're harnessing our political power on all fronts, at the ballot box, in Capitol Hill, and the folks who walk the halls of Capitol Hill in a way that we've never seen before. All three entities were never built with folks like us to begin with. So like I said, it's an exciting story, and I can't wait to see what's next on our realm.
Thank you so much, Aisha. And that perspective also helps all of our communities, speaking specifically to Muslim communities, to know that each of us does play a very important role, not just at the federal election level, but these local and regional elections. So get out the vote in any way that you can, especially if you're somebody who's, Muslim in the audience. That's an important consideration going forward. So let's talk a little bit about the ways that maybe the political establishment, politicians, and folks at large should also be considering Muslim communities, beyond just this election, or also beyond the facts that Aisha just laid out for us. So Adam Bidawi from MPAC and Ishraq Ali from MPower Change are here to talk a little bit about that. Adam?
Thanks, Kifa. So, and thanks to everybody else on this call and who was otherwise involved in putting together this resource, I think it's incredibly important. One of the senses in which I think it's really important is the extent to which it's, because of its the methodology that we took in putting it together and reaching out to survey respondents, I believe it's fairly reflective of the wider community. The American Muslim community is one of the most diverse social and political blocs in the country on race and ethnicity lines, but also in terms of socioeconomic status. And so that tends to express itself in an ideological diversity and a variability of political action and voter behavior. And so it's always our task as civic organizations to respond to that complexity and find points of convergence in terms of the issues that we prioritize. And I think that this poll went far in identifying those those points of issue area convergence. So we saw that there was a prioritization among the community of domestic issues like civil rights, healthcare access, education reform, but also close behind was an emphasis on foreign policy. And so there's a way in which we should look at this as a marriage of what was prior to this understood, especially in some of the scholarly literature, as two different orientations to civic and political engagement. In our poll, I think that we found a unity on those issues that effectively tells us that the community is aware of the fact that in order to make headway at the level of foreign policy, we need to have bases or headway in the domestic sphere and be able to be power players at that level. And as Aisha indicated, in many ways, especially in these key battleground areas, we are, and we're strategic blocks that politicians, people who are policymakers should consider not just as window dressing on a diverse electoral coalition, but as key parts of their strategic and political apparatus. And so I think that the results in this poll show that our communities, our organizations, our citizens should be respectfully engaged on these issues. We're not just we're not a monolith, and we're not just scattered masses, right? We are there's a unity in our diversity and in our difference, and I'm excited that this poll was able to demonstrate that.
Cool. I appreciate everybody kind of teeing that up, and I kind of want to pull back on what Aisha's framing was. That this year is a really interesting story for our community and what will go beyond. I think, like Mohammed set the stage of talking a bit about the issues that are impacting us, and then Adam really kind of synthesizing and letting us know that, you know what, the issues that are happening domestically and overseas, they're intertwined in terms of the interests of who we are as a community. So now our role really is like, are we going to be active characters in this story, telling the story of our political destiny and how we're going to be shaping up what happens to us in the next couple of months and beyond? Our real challenge, or our kind of opportunity that we have, is that we understand what the issues are that are driving us. We're looking at the numbers. We know that if we turn out in numbers, or that we can actually impact elections in battleground states, and then of course downstate in terms of where we are with our communities. So a big opportunity that's really kind of there for us is, are we plugging in with the organizations and the communities that are doing work? Being it, folks that are running for office, or, setting up our candidates that reflect our values and our positions to be able to do that work. Or folks doing, civic engagement and voter registration work and literally mobilizing for the elections. So this is really a call to action for us as we're really, understanding what the issues are. We know that in this moment that we have a few months, we have like 70 or less days to the election right now. What actions are we going to take to be an active player in this story, so that after November 3rd, when we're looking at the end of this year or looking early into next year, whatever the horizon looks like in terms of who our electeds are, what are we doing to make sure that we're building our power? And so it's in that vein, we want to be able to make sure that folks can take a look at the poll, use that as a way to really galvanize and energize their community and your leadership to really hold them accountable for the issues that you care about. So, I don't know, Kifa, if this makes sense. Should I be talking about where folks can find the Power Poll? Great.
Yeah.
So, the Power Poll can actually be found at mymuslimvote.org/Muslim Power. So I think the moderator will drop that in the chat. So mymuslimvote.org/Muslim Power is where you can take a look at the poll and use that as an opportunity to understand what the issues are and use that to drive to action. Thank you very much. And then, of course, maybe I'll share for what our exciting actions are coming up when all the organizations share a bit of what they're doing. And I'll hand it off to you, Jetpac.
Thanks so much, Adam and Ishraq, and everyone, Mohammed and Aisha, for going through that important information, not just for Muslim communities, but for anyone else who's watching, with regards to how Muslims should be regarded and our political futures in this country and how important of a role we play. So let's also introduce the rest of the folks who were integral in making sure that we were able to survey all of the communities that we mentioned. We're also joined by Zain Hassan from Polygon Education Fund, and I think Zain, yes, hello Zain, and also Lita Azim from America Indivisible. And thank you both so much for joining us and for all of the work that you all have done. And we're also joined by Robert McCaw, of course, of Council on American-Islamic Relations. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
So if you all have any closing thoughts that you'd like to add, we want to make sure that you can share. Go ahead if any of you want to tell us anything and your reflections or any information that you think is important that folks know.
I can just jump right in and say that, number one, CAIR is really proud to partner with all the other national Muslim organizations that got behind this poll, promoted it online in our community while we're all stuck at home online during COVID. What better time than now for Muslims to engage in a pre-election survey? And this survey has two really great benefits. Number one, it lets Muslims know that their views are being shared by others in the community. And it's very important that we get out the vote this election. Whether voter suppression won't stop us, COVID won't stop us. The only thing that can stop us is ourselves. And we know that we're engaged. We know that we have the numbers out in the field. We know that we're in battleground states. We know that in our local elections, we can tip it with our numbers. So it's great for us to know as a community that the issues that individuals personally hold are also shared by others in the community. And it's just a great way to inspire oneself to get out and vote. And the second part to this is for all those politicians who we are going to be sending the survey to, all those candidates running for offices, look at our numbers in the field, look at the amount of Muslims that are registered to vote, and then understand Muslim voters. Read this poll, see what are our core concerns. It's domestic, it's civil rights, it's healthcare, it's education. We are just as concerned about foreign policy issues, and you have to engage all of us here on this platform because we're united through several great campaigns, whether that's MPower's My Muslim Vote, whether it's Emgage's Million Muslim Voters Initiative, whether that's CAIR's Muslims.vote, our campaign that 20 chapters across the nation are operating. We have the numbers, we know our issues, and it's time for you to get to know us.
Amazing. Thank you, Robert. Go ahead, Zain.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm Zain. I'm with Polygon, and we're really excited about the launch of this report as well. At Polygon, we're trying to amplify Muslim American civic engagement in Congress, since we're the least likely faith group to contact and engage with our elected officials. So by providing these tools, this can help us better advocate for issues that are affecting our community, such as the Muslim ban and healthcare policies. And it improves our congressional advocacy trainings that we do here at Polygon. So we're really excited about the launch of this report. It's an important tool for not only the upcoming elections, but also for folks to get engaged with their elected officials for policies that they care about. And so that's it for us.
Perfect. And just quickly to add, I just want to echo what everyone said. Like, this is an amazing report. I think for us at American Indivisible, it's absolutely critical to understand the needs of the general American Muslim community. And in our personal efforts in building a better relationship with the Muslim community and also with those who hold public office. So I think this report would definitely help us even post-election the next couple of years.
And I'd just like to add that the real utility of this poll, aside from what it reveals in its findings, is that it can be a basis for future programming and future engagement work by our organizations and how we orient ourselves to our constituents. So MPAC's doing candidates forums in several battleground states and districts where there might be some movement, and we're coming out with a paper, analysis paper, that takes as its sort of object of focus some of the issue areas that we brought up. And I look forward to other organizations, the great programming that we're all working on. With tools like these, our understanding of the community and our understanding of the political landscape only improves. So I'm happy that we're all able to come together and put together this resource that can be the impetus for future work and research as well.
Cool. So again, for folks, thanks for tuning in. We wanted to make sure that folks know where they can take a look at that report. So mymuslimvote.org/MuslimPower. And then, we've had some busy couple of weeks. Last week was the DNC. This week is the RNC, and we're dropping the report today. So take a look at the report, take it all in. And then in about 4 days, all the organizations that are here, everyone that's represented here, we're collaborating on National Muslim Voter Registration Day. We want to be active players in this story. So on this Friday, August 28th, we're encouraging and inviting everybody to make sure that their communities, their family members, their relatives are registered to vote. They're requesting their absentee ballots. And then more so, if you want to be a very active player in this story, join us to phone bank with us, because we're going to be spending Friday afternoon after Jummah, of course, calling our communities, texting our communities, making sure that they have the tools that they need to register to vote, to request their vote by mail ballot, and just for any other information on civic engagement and voter registration. So you can find out more information about that at mymuslimvote.org. And I think that's it on my end.
Thank you all so much. I hope for everyone who's joining us today, you can see how much work is being done. So not only is it informative, but really inspiring. There are so many Muslims across the country who are building up our civic and political power. So there's still so much work to do even this year. Join us. And let's make sure that we are recognized as a force. And let's make sure that we're really turning out all of our votes this November. Thank you all so much. Don't forget to check out mymuslimvote.org/MuslimPower for the poll. There's all of the report and the information there. Take care, everyone.